In the world of professional wrestling, wrestler had to do whatever company wants them to do, even though the wrestler disagree. Entities like WWE got their own script which is supposed to be followed by a fellow wrestler. However, it is not like that they had to go 100% with the script. Superstars could add their but nevertheless, there have been some incidents when superstars were heavily punished for getting out of script. What is up, people? It is WrestleLogist here, and today we are going to be looking at the superstars who were punished for getting out of script. And to kick off the things, let's start with the story in which Mr. Vince McMahon, the chairman himself, is involved. This is kind of one of the strangest off-script moments in my memory. Following the Daniel Bryan retirement segment on Monday Night Raw, Mr. Vince McMahon handed back to the locker room. As he passed to the wrestlers on stage, Titus O'Neil grabbed Vince's arm and seemed to share a laugh with him. After the fact, WWE announced that O'Neil has been suspended a shocking 90 days for unprofessional conduct. At that time, nobody, including O'Neil, was sure why the performer was suspended. So far as anyone can tell, it is related to the fact that he grabbed Vince McMahon's arm. How such a simple movement could lead to a 90-day suspension, which was later reduced to 90 days, is something that nobody could have ever figured out. But we had figured out one thing, that Vince is a savage. And let's get on to next one. In case you had never heard, you should probably know that JBL is kinda sorta bit of a jerk. Actually, he's worse than that. He's a complete bully who had never had a problem abusing his fellow wrestlers in the ring. For instance, JBL drunkenly bet up Blue Meanie following 2005 one-night stand event over some comments Meanie had made over JBL in a shoot interview. As punishment, WWE decided to have him lose to Blue Meanie on SmackDown. While that's bad though, JBL's real punishment came from Meanie's best friend Steve Richards during the JBL and Meanie match. Richards came in and hit JBL with one of the most devastating chair shots in wrestling history. To be honest, I think JBL would have been much nicer person if things like this happened much often, isn't it? You wouldn't think that Braun Strowman would struggle to stick with the script. After all, when the incident happened around 2016, he mostly says only one word, that was his name, when he speaks. However, the incident was Strowman would cut a promo on Monday Night Raw, but not too long, in which he used the
I want the title shot you promised me.
Title shot in reference to an upcoming match. That current terminology in WWE is title match. According to Mick Foley, Vince McMahon tore into Braun Strowman for the slip up the moment that he stepped backstage. It might sound like a little thing, but Foley claims that verbal beatdown helped turn potentially good wrestler into guys that desire to be great. Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens have been doing things their own way ever since the two entered in the business. Their respective routes to WWE are certainly best described as unconventional. However, their independent mindset may have come back to bite them in 2018's European tour. It seems that Owens and Zayn decided to slightly alter the end of their match with the New Day. While the alteration wasn't major, they avoided a post-match beatdown. It was enough for the deviation from the script to inspire WWE management to send them to home before the tour was completed. Some people speculated that there might have been more to this story, on that it was part of their pair character development. Next up, we have the great one, The Rock. It is quite shocking to have The Rock here, but it's true. For the most part, The Rock is immune to the usual rules that how closely wrestlers should stick to the script. It was hard enough to tell The Rock to stick to the script when he was an up-and-coming wrestler. Now that he is one of the biggest movie stars in the world, it's probably even harder to keep him under control. For instance, one of The Rock's written tips to WWE was highlighted by an appearance on Monday Night Raw in which he conducted vicious promo on Lana, interacted with some fans in costumes, and telephoned CM Punk. Well and good, but it turns that WWE didn't strictly approve any of those things. Of course, none of them added to anything worse than a verbal puke. You ever had one of those days when you are not feeling like giving up your all at work? You know that kind of day when you just want to bury your head and not lift until you go to your home? And it turns out that Gail Kim had several of those days in WWE. Kim was never especially fond of WWE creative practices and booking decisions. This means that she occasionally phoned things in during her later days with the company. The most memorable incident of her recently empathy occurred during a battle royal in which Kim eliminated herself. and just walked away to the backstage. At the time, some people speculated he was trying to get fired. Kim pretty much verified that fact. We all know what are the consequences of bleeding when you're wrestling. We didn't really talk about why wrestlers get fined for bleeding. There have been points in wrestling industry when promoters allowed and engaged bleeding. However, whenever a company like WWE is trying to improve their image, they define to fine wrestlers for bleeding. Batista knew that, but he decided to bleed during a cage match against Chris Jericho. Anyway, that worst thing that could happen is Vince McMahon would fine him $25,000. Really happened is Vince McMahon fined him $100,000 over the incident. Batista felt that he wasn't right and was being punished for such a severe degree for a reason that has nothing to do with him. I think Batista was right. What about you? No scripted event in WWE history has ever changed the business quite like one. In 1996, Kevin Nash and Scott Hall informed Vince McMahon of their desire to leave WWE. The last matches were scheduled to take place during Madison Garden Square shortly after Shawn Michaels and Kevin Nash main event. And Triple H decided to join their friend in the ring and enjoy with a group hug. As because heels were hugging babyface, WWE was forced to acknowledge that wrestling was scripted. The fallout of this event was tremendous, and Nash carried their real-life storytelling style to WCW and formed the revolutionary NWO. Triple H lost his planned King of the Ring push and suffered a severe career setback. The man who won the year's King of the Ring tournament, Steve Austin, would go and save the company. So that were the wrestlers who were punished by WWE.